Hello and welcome to our webcast on de-risking and adding value to your finance transformation with SAP Signavio Solutions. My name is Lisa Marisic. I'm a director in our financial advisory team. I would like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on virtually today. We are coming to you live from Melbourne on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation and pay our respects to their elders past and present. Change. I feel like I've been talking about change my whole working career, but now change is not only continuous but extremely fast-paced. Moving to cloud is the first step in being able to access current and future technological advancements at speed. With change comes risk. As finance transform to move their technology to cloud to deliver work more accurately and efficiently, it is important to assess and mitigate risk, not only for now, but into the future. Today, we are going to look at de-risking and adding value to your finance transformation and how PwC use a framework and SAP Signavio to mitigate risk and add value. Also, we are not only going to talk to you, but show you how Signavio can mitigate transformation risk using an exciting tax use case. I did say exciting in tax, so just believe me on that one. So joining me today, we have Jeremy Pitchard, who is a partner, S4HANA leader, Matea Beck, a partner, finance transformation lead, Prav Ram, partner, trust and risk, and Mark DeLuca, partner, tax technology and transformation. Before we get started, if you have any questions, I would encourage you to put those in the box below on your screen, and we will endeavour to get to them on the session if we have time. Otherwise, a PwC representative will follow up with you after the session. Now, Jeremy, I have mentioned the first step to be able to utilise fast-paced change in technology is moving to the cloud. Can you discuss the PwC framework for the case for change?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I'm Jeremy Pitchford, a partner in the SAP practice at PwC. I've spent my whole career, pretty much the last 25 years, helping clients maximize value out of their SAP investment. And in that time, I've had experience across all stages of the SAP lifecycle, everything from multi-year, multi-country SAP-enabled business transformation programs. I've been on the other end of it, helping Australian companies with the local deployment of global template solutions brought into their business in Australia. So I've seen the benefits and the challenges of standardization and what comes with it. Most recently, I've been helping clients across Australia make the case for change to move to S4HANA. Now, the S4HANA case for change is a hard one. It's not an easy task. Early adopters, they had a really strong catalyst to move, drivers such as burning technology platforms, oftentimes with multiple ERPs. You had M&A as a catalyst for a lot of organizations, or market and business model disruption. But there were clear factors and conditions that drove organizations towards the adoption of S4HANA best practices and what ended up being whole of business transformation. You also had a number of organizations that were taking a technical brownfield approach to get to S4HANA. And a lot of them had maybe recently moved to ECC, and they had a relatively clean core, not a lot of customization in their ERP. A lot of organizations were coupling it with a migration to the cloud, as opposed to a two-step approach. We're going to move from on-prem to the cloud. Let's also take the opportunity to just do a technical upgrade of the database and get to S4. But now we've kind of seen an inflection point in the market. 2027 is approaching, and I think the market is slowly coming to the realization that SAP's probably not going to extend the support of ECC, although there are some people that might want to take that bet. Most organizations, however, don't want to accept the risk of being out of support with their most important business application, and that's their ERP. We're seeing a huge amount of activity in the market. A lot of organizations doing their S4HANA roadmap, doing their business case, trying to figure out what that looks like for them. And they're all asking questions around the how, the why, the what, the when. How do we move to S4HANA? Is it brownfield? Is it greenfield? Is it something in between? When do we move to S4HANA? Do we start now and get ahead of the curve? Do we wait until 2026 so that we can prioritize other business opportunities? What's the scope of the move to S4HANA? Do we try to achieve target state or close to target state as quickly as we can? Or do we just get to S4 as quickly as possible so that then we can drive a roadmap of optimization and improvement opportunities? An interesting fact, only about 20% of the ECC install base in Australia has actually migrated to S4HANA. It's a little higher when you count who's purchased licenses in a number of organizations that have started their journey, but only 1 out of 5 customers. And that's much lower than the global average. The global average is around 30%. So this means that there's probably between 400 and 500 companies across ANZ that are still trying to figure out their S4HANA journey. The sentiment we're seeing in the market now is that many organizations, to use the lack of a better term, they kind of resent the pressure that SAP has put on them to move to S4HANA. They don't necessarily want to do it, not in the traditional sense. There's very little appetite for large-scale transformation programs. It's hard to justify spending $50, $100, $150 million disrupting your business for multiple years to put in a new ERP. And this is untenable. Many organizations have competing priorities. There's tough economic conditions, evolving business models, new opportunities in the market, disrupting technologies, margin pressure. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into that reticence to kind of embark on the big transformation program. Fortunately, there's no longer just 2 options for migrating from ECC to S4HANA. Traditionally, you had a brownfield approach, pure technical migration, and you had a greenfield approach, and that was a fresh ERP implementation, starting from scratch, adopting best practices. Now there's many different paths to get to S4HANA, and it allows organizations to take an approach that is right-sized for your business and aligned specifically to your appetite and capacity for change. There's almost an infinite number of hybrid options across the migration spectrum. If you think of brownfield being one bookend approach and then greenfield being another bookend approach, you've got lots of selective approaches and kind of combinations in the middle. The 2 main ones we work with clients and we call hybrid brownfield and hybrid greenfield. Hybrid greenfield is sometimes referred to as a mix and match approach. These approaches allow organizations to take a selective approach to transformation. It allows you to transform some parts of the business while lifting and shifting others. Now, this approach, I think, it's been in the market for a while. It was often referred to as Bluefield many years ago, and it's evolved into its current form since then. So the question your organization needs to make is to define where you are on the spectrum of transformation. Is it just transformation of the finance function, adopting S4HANA best practices, including the new universal ledger, embedded analytics, real-time reconciliation, while lifting and shifting other parts of the business? I think it's widely viewed that the finance function can deliver a lot of value by moving from ECC to S4HANA. Or do you extend that and transform all back office functions, including procurement and HR? What about field sales and service, manufacturing, distribution? Every company is unique. I think traditionally using a set of best practice industry business processes and a pre-configured S4 solution, that was kind of universally accepted as the way, the best practice approach for a greenfield approach. However, when a more tailored hybrid approach is considered, there are many factors to determine the best course of action. Looking at your business strategy, your operating model, your current business processes, your application landscape, and the level of customization that you have. And each business function and process must be looked at discretely for your organization. What's the benefit of transforming your procurement function versus just lifting and shifting what you have? What's the change impact of adopting a brand new warehouse management solution versus just lifting and shifting the current ECC solution that you have? What's the business risk of putting in a new asset management capability versus lifting and shifting? And each of those decisions can also be done on the spectrum. It isn't black and white. Within procurement or within asset management, there's still an opportunity to improve data quality, to implement some small amount of process optimization, or roll out a few selected Fiori apps without whole-scale transformation and movement and adoption of best practices. So now you can see how complex this is for organizations and why they struggle with it. There's almost a paralysis by analysis. And this is why PwC has developed our S4HANA Case for Change framework to help our clients with these very challenging and important decisions. Our approach is a data-driven one. Gone are the days where you sit in workshops and ask the business what they want. There are plenty of tools in the market that allow for a thorough assessment of your ECC legacy environment. There are a number of dimensions of that ECC environment that are really important to dive into. The technical health of the database, the quality of the data, the level of customization and the deviation from standard, the integration architecture across ECC and PO, your business process maturity. And in each of those areas, there's a set of tools that we use to engage our clients. For example, we use S&P Crystal Bridge to look at the technical health of an ECC environment. SAP themselves have a number of great technical tools to assess the S4 readiness, looking at across customizations and integration. We routinely run the ABAP Cloud Readiness Assessment in BTP and the Integration Suite Readiness Assessment. So assessing the data quality of ECC is also very important, and we partner with a number of third-party tools to do rapid profiling and data quality assessments. But the most important tool that we work with is Signavio. Now, there are two versions, two products in the Signavio portfolio that we use. One is Process Insights, and the other is Process Intelligence. Process Insights is a really great lightweight option to get rapid insights around your current business processes as they're supported and enabled by ECC. It's actually built on BTP, and therefore it has out-of-the-box connectors with ECC, and it's really easy to set up. Within a matter of days, you can have really strong insights around how you're using your ECC landscape. And it mainly looks at document flow and then the statuses of those documents and dates, and develops a view of the level of process discipline that you've used as an organization and how it deviates from best practices. It also delivers high-level benchmarking, and we find this provides really good directional insights that can support business discovery workshops, as well as can be used as input into a high-level business case. Signavio Process Intelligence, on the other hand, delivers far more insights and value than Process Insights, albeit with a higher cost and effort. And one of the points of real value is when we've connected our Signavio Process Intelligence to our client's ECC environment and fully mapped an L1 priority process. Let's take procure to pay, for example. We're then able to perform a fit gap of their current processes and all the variations that they use that process against S4HANA best practices, which we also have modeled in Signavio. And this is a really valuable visualization to run discovery workshops with the business and to help explain to them how they currently use the system and their current processes are enabled by ECC versus the way they think they are, and then to be able to help with that change impact and that gap assessment against standard best practices. So my colleagues Mattia, Prav, and Mark are going to be providing further information around how we've used Signavio across a number of other use cases. But in summary, it is one of many tools that we use to help our clients with this really complex decision. But it's, from what we've seen, it's probably the most valuable tool that we use. And that ability to take a data-driven and informed approach to support our clients with their S4HANA roadmap is really, really valuable.
Thanks for that, Jeremy. That's really interesting. Now, so, Jeremy, you mentioned risk, and there's a number of different types of risk: technology risk, process risk, people risk. Mattia, what do you think is important in relation to finance transformations, adding value and de-risking the process?
Thanks, Lisa. As mentioned, I lead our finance transformation practice, and I've been implementing SAP within finance functions for over 30 years now. As part of my own personal journey, I've seen firsthand how technology can transform the way that we work in finance. And I can still remember the delight when I worked at one of the first UK oil companies to implement the black and green screens of R2. And we were able to drill down into the transaction source, so there were no more visits to the journal room to pull out the journals. The move to S4 is another generational change for SAP users, similar to the transition that we went through from R2 to R3, except that S4, as Jeremy mentions, gives the end users a vastly improved user experience and a platform now for low-code and no-code citizen-led transformation within the finance team. So as I consider the journey for modern finance functions, one of the key considerations for embarking on the upgrade journey is to assess how the finance team can take the opportunity to improve the user experience, but also take advantage of some of the new features available in S4 and in SAP's business technology platform, BTP. These will allow us to simplify, standardize, and automate the end-to-end finance processes. And of course, a key part of the automation is not just the business process, but to ensure that we design and build in a process that is compliant by design. And Prav will speak more about that. As we all know, today the CFO is under pressure to do more with less. Our recent PwC Finance Effectiveness study highlighted that leading organisations have a cost of finance that is 0.55% of revenues. And in fact, some industries are actually below this, for example, consumer products and also telco. So it's really important that as we think about the journey to S4, we consider what opportunities there are to improve efficiency and effectiveness of the finance team. Fixing the data, and if needed, the underlying data structures, is of course a key design choice that needs to consider not just the effort to implement the changes, but also the consequences of not addressing this as part of the initial upgrade scope to S4. This is becoming ever more topical as we know that for AI and for Gen AI to be relevant, it relies on accurate source information. So, for example, predictive forecasting relies on accurate, relevant source data in order to be able to predict the future. I'm currently advising a number of CFOs on how to approach the upgrade journey, and specifically what SAP S4 functionality should be implemented to deliver the process changes to enable the finance function to improve efficiency and effectiveness of their processes. A key first step in this journey, as Jeremy mentioned, is to use tools such as Signavio to understand the current state baseline. I've seen too many organisations embark on the journey without truly understanding the current state, efficiency and effectiveness of the processes. Hence, the benchmarking that Jeremy referred to is really important. This provides us with the insight to assess and prioritise where to focus the effort to improve either the process or alternatively the ways of working for that finance team. Or even we may want to consider the opportunity to embed controls or automated compliance for tax, legal, statutory purposes. Excuse me. This approach delivers a value case that can be quantified, which helps us to develop an agile and iterative transformation roadmap. As a transformation leader, I must of course touch on AI. At PwC, we use a 4-level framework to assess the maturity of the finance and global business services teams. Many teams we find are just starting out on the journey in finance. And in most cases, we're seeing the exploration of level 1, level 2 example use cases, which include chatbots and Microsoft Copilot. The key opportunity, though, for finance is to explore the FP&A use cases, which, if used effectively, can free up time from data gathering and generation of first-level insights to deliver deeper, forward-looking insights into truly understanding performance and using this to predict the actions that need to be taken to maximise the opportunities to drive performance going forwards. An example of one of our level 4 use cases is where we have integrated large language models and ChatGPT-4 into SAP's SAC environment to deliver automated commentary for management reporting and an ability to chat with the data to better understand the drivers of the results. I'd like to now take the opportunity to introduce a video. The first one shows how we have used Signavio to capture PwC's leading practice finance processes. That's the end-to-end finance process, incorporating any manual steps outside of the process, as well as the SAP steps, to help inform the future state of design by following the fit-to-standard process that Jeremy mentioned.
Signavio as a tool has a series of modules which we use as part of the finance transformation journey. Through the implementation phase, we typically see Process Manager as being the module which offers the most benefits, enabling clients to start with our predefined best practice materials to accelerate their transformation journey. These best practice materials document the out-of-the-box functionality you will receive from your system, as well as industry alignment to incorporate a wider end-to-end view of the process. This ensures you are getting a wider business view than just system execution and incorporating risk, controls, and process together in one tool. Through the design phase, we would tailor these to specific requirements, capturing risk and controls and key design decisions related to the implementation. The high degree of interconnectivity of Signavio enables you to not only see the process, but also to have a transparent view on the design decisions and maintain risk and controls as a foundation of your transformation. Utilizing the Process Manager module enables you the opportunity to leverage Signavio for more process intelligence and data-driven analytics at a future stage through modules such as Process Insights and Process Intelligence to drive your continuous improvement initiatives and continuous controls monitoring, enabling you to not only transform in your technology implementation, but also to continue to improve and gain efficiencies in the run state.
Thanks, Matea. That video really brought it to life. I think, Prav, it's going to over to you. And as we've heard, a common theme in the use of technology in a finance transformation is compliant by design to insights, but also continuous controls monitoring to mitigate risk. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. As Matea has mentioned and Paddy showed on the video just now, Signavio can be really used to provide value and mitigate risk during ERP programs, and particularly from my perspective to help design and embed risk and controls in the processes and solutions. Now, we all know that boards and CFOs generally don't like to hear about audit findings or control breakdowns or compliance issues after they've made a huge investment in an ERP program that's gone live. And being able to be compliant by design or secure by design is a way to avoid this. There's also a common misconception that these large ERPs, particularly the ones that are in the cloud, are secure and compliant by design, and this just isn't the case. So the way that we support our clients through this is by embedding security risk and control specialists into the program team and who work alongside the functional and technical specialists to understand the processes, understand the risks in those processes, such as incorrect payments to vendors or users with access to segregation of duty risks or weak security parameters, and then design and optimise security and controls to mitigate them. Now, we have a number of tools and accelerators that assist us with this, such as our S4HANA and SuccessFactors risk and control libraries, and we have these for all major business applications. Halo, our configuration and security assessment tool, and our GRC rapid deployment accelerators. However, over recent years, we've also started using Signavio, particularly in the design phase, to understand the to-be processes, any deviations from SAP standard or existing processes, and the risks in those processes. And then we've been using Signavio to identify and document the key control points, as well as the detailed control design, looking for optimisation opportunities along the way through automation, standardisation, etc. And then capturing any reports, configurations or transactions required to operate the control, or who will be responsible for operating the controls, so that this information can be used through the course of the program, ensuring that controls are built and tested as part of the build and test phase, ensuring that security is built in line with these requirements and takes into consideration segregation of duties or security hardening requirements as part of the security stream, and that users are trained and procedures updated, etc., as part of the change management activities of the program. Now, this is something that we have done for many, many years without using Signavio, but over recent years we've been using Signavio really to make that process more efficient. And having all this information in one place with process flows, detailed information, control information, just makes it easier for the process owners, compliance teams, internal audit, etc., to really understand the to-be processes and ensure that all their key control requirements have been considered and delivered by the program, being effective from day one. However, the journey doesn't stop for us once the program's live. Signavio has been used to support the 3 lines of defence. Line 1 being management in the business, line 2 being compliance and risk functions, and line 3 being internal audit and external audit. And Signavio has been used firstly to visualise the actual processes operating in the organisation, any deviations from expected practices, bottlenecks, process optimisation opportunities, or even control breakdowns. All in one place, you can see 100% of your transactions and all the different ways these transactions are being processed in your organisation. You can see where controls are being bypassed or bottlenecks may exist, as well as you can see who's processing these transactions and the materiality of them, so that any remediation activities can be prioritised and focused. Secondly, it can be used to continuously monitor the effectiveness of controls using the continuous control monitoring capability and integration with GRC tools. And we can deep dive in that in further webcasts. The third area that we've been looking at is it's being used to understand where there may be impacts to any proposed process or control changes, making any recommendations far more insightful and benefits based on data. And then lastly, it's being used to understand where processes may have unexpectedly changed over time so that can be understood and managed accordingly. So as you can see from a risk perspective, tools like Signavio are quite powerful, allowing you to really bring the insights and value to the business in a far more efficient way. And one of the greatest benefits is that all three lines are looking at the same set of data and your actual processes, really making this hard to argue with and real for the business, aligning the whole of the organisation. Now, to help bring this to life, Mark's going to talk through this, as we mentioned, through a tax process and demonstrate some of these capabilities. However, the same could be applied, whether that be for a finance, procure-to-pay, sales process, etc.
Yeah, Signavio is an important tool, and as was mentioned by Jeremy, it's a strategic tool for PwC. So we've got Mark, who is going to present the exciting tax use case, which brings continuous controls monitoring to life post-implementation, because risk doesn't stop once you go live. So over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Prav. Tax and exciting are words you don't often hear together, but hopefully I'll be able to change that for you in the next few minutes. As you may know, the landscape of tax compliance is constantly evolving, with new reporting regimes and tax compliance model changes being introduced all the time. There's, for example, Pillar 2, new GST digital remote service laws, and single touch payroll 2.0 that have all been introduced over recent times. These have increased compliance regimes, can put a significant strain on businesses, which are required to provide more transactional data to regulators, often in near real time, file more returns, and disclose more information in existing returns, all whilst the finance and tax functions are being asked to be more cost efficient. The consequences of non-compliance can be severe, with significant financial penalties, up to $800,000 per return if you're a significant global entity, and potential legal and reputational impact. That's why it's crucial for businesses to leverage technology as much as possible to assist with this increasing compliance burden. And that's where Signavio comes in. Just like my colleagues have all mentioned earlier, we see Signavio as a solution that can help de-risk your tax compliance processes and add value back into the business by providing a clear and comprehensive view of your tax compliance processes and controls. With Signavio, you can assess the design and operational effectiveness of your tax controls, identify potential risks and gaps, enabling you to take proactive measures to mitigate those risks. Signavio's deep root cause analysis capabilities performed across your ERP system's audit log data, whether that is SAP or another provider, can help you identify whether, for example, reporting errors are a result of a system configuration setup issue, product customer vendor master data rules that require updating, or human processing errors that may require more training or procedure documentation. Signavio is a solution that can also help you with internal or external audits, or ATO justified trust reviews, where taxpayers are required to provide assurances that they are paying the right amount of tax. This is by identifying areas where you may be overpaying or underpaying taxes, or where you may be non-compliant from a tax compliance perspective. By identifying these risks, you can take corrective action to ensure that your tax compliance processes are robust and effective for the future. Keeping with the theme of the ATO's Justified Trust program, it can also be used as a solution to perform your periodic controls testing that is required by the ATO. For those that are not familiar with this, the ATO has published several board and managerial controls that are essential features of a tax control framework. Within this framework, Board Level Control 4, or BLC4, requires that controls testing is done regularly to prove that your tax controls are designed, are operating effectively. Instead of performing this testing on an irregular basis, Signavio could be run on a continuous basis to perform near real-time reviews, allowing you to identify errors in advance and provide evidence to the ATO that your controls are operating effectively, allowing you to achieve the highest possible tax assurance rating when under review. In addition to de-risking your tax compliance processes, Signavio can also add value to your business by measuring process-related inefficiencies or bottlenecks based on the timestamps obtained in your ERP system's audit log data. This provides visibility into real process execution, helping you identify areas where you can reduce costs, increase efficiency, and improve your bottom line. Let's now see a demonstration of this in practice.
In this demonstration, I'll take you through a specific use case of the procure-to-pay process to show you how Signavio can identify opportunities within GST. This specific example investigates tax code changes within accounts payable in order to measure the operational effectiveness of a control environment. You can see the number of purchases on the left and that 14% of them have tax code changes. 2/3 of those transactions are changed before lodgement of the GST return and 1/3 is changed after lodgement. The data also highlights there is 9 days on average of delays when there is a tax code change, and on the right, the cost centre that has the most changes is marketing. It's always the marketing folks, isn't it? And the tax code that's changed the most is TC2, which is a non-capital purchase at 10%. As you can see, this starts to demonstrate insights into the controls that the ATO wants organisations to provide evidence and test as part of its Justified Trust program in relation to GST controls in place for data, also known as MLC4, and your documented GST control framework, MLC6. We now drill into this further. In process discovery, you can see all the paths undertaken in the procure-to-pay process on an end-to-end process flowchart. It highlights the dominant path as well as any deviations with frequency at each stage in the process. If we move to process intelligence, we can see the different sequence of events that occur. Looking at the most dominant case, which in this case is our expected path, a PO line is followed by a tax code insertion, then invoice receipt, payment, and the invoice is then cleared. You can then see that there are 4 variants to the expected process. We'll now hone in on one variant where the tax code has changed after payment. Looking into this further, we can obtain insights into the number of occurrences of the tax codes being changed and by system and user. We can then drill into specific audit log detail. You can see that after the system inserted TC2, 10% of GST is added to the invoice, either as part of the monthly GST compliance process or via a vendor query. User 3 then identified that the system incorrectly applied the wrong tax code. This appears to be because the master data rules were incorrectly set up, which had the vendor default to 10% GST tax code. User 3 then changed the tax code from TC2 to TC1, which is after the payment, resulting in a credit note being issued by the vendor to adjust for the 10% that was overpaid. This information can then be provided back to the business to drive change and reduce tax compliance risk going forward. Signavio can be set up to perform point-in-time reviews or run to enable the real-time monitoring of organisational processes as executed to drive continuous improvement. Whilst I only showed you one specific tax use case today, you can see that it has broader application that can be applied across most financial tax functions to demonstrate design and operational effectiveness to the regulators, de-risk your compliance process, and improve overall efficiency using data-driven insights.
All right, well, thanks for that, Mark. You really did bring how you can use Signavio for continuous controls monitoring to life, and that was a tax use case, and as it promised, it was exciting, but it's applicable, as Prav was saying, across the business, so outside of finance as well. So as we draw close to the end of the webcast, we have a couple of questions. So one that kind of stood out, I'm going to throw to you, Jeremy. How relevant or applicable is this methodology to ERPs other than SAP ones? So it's a good question.
That's a good question. I mean, SAP acquired Signavio, I think it's been 2 years now. Prior to that, Signavio was an independent process management, process intelligence tool. Equally had a very big install base with Oracle and Microsoft Dynamics and other ERP platforms. I think, but as you'd expect, after SAP's acquired Signavio, they're putting a significant amount of investment into integrating Signavio with ECC. And traditionally, process intelligence tools, there's a bit of transformation work that's required to get the data out of the ERP into Signavio to be able to produce the relevant insights that you need. So Signavio still has a very big install base of Oracle and Dynamics and other ERP customers, and that's not going to go away. It is going to be supported to work with those platforms. As a double down, SAP has also just acquired a company called LeanIX, which is more kind of technology architecture and op model, and that has a very big install base of other non-SAP ERPs. So I think the short answer is absolutely it works with all ERPs. We'll continue to work with all ERPs, but for those customers that are on SAP, the investment that SAP is making is going to accelerate that time to value to pull the data out of ECC and to produce those insights for organizations.
Maybe, Jeremy, I'll just add to that, Lisa, if that's okay as well. We've been using this using Signavio for an organisation to look at other systems outside of the ERP system, so into some of the other business processes. So as mentioned, we've found there's much more effort required up front to extract the data, transform the data, and then be able to bring it into the Signavio itself. So I think it's important just to factor that time in if you're going to be using it to look at other systems. And certainly a number of finance organisations are still upgrading their PeopleSoft systems and moving on to the Oracle platform as well. So I have seen it being utilised there also.
That's great. Time for one more question, and Prav, I'm going to give this one to you. In terms of finance transformations, like what risks and challenges have you seen, and what advice, very quickly, could you give to the audience today?
Yeah, so I think that's probably something we could spend a whole another hour on talking through. So maybe I'll limit it to probably 3, and thematically these are very, very similar challenges and issues that we saw in the last wave of technology changes, 10 to 15 years ago, that we're seeing today, albeit the details are different, right? We're largely cloud-based now. Historically, we're on-prem. The last lot of solutions were delivered through SDLC, program management methodologies. We're now, going through hybrid agile, but the core issues and the challenges that organisations face are the same. Change is obviously a big issue, ensuring that your business is brought along in the journey. They know how to operate the new processes and adopt the new functionality, even if moving from SAP to SAP. There is new functionality, analytics, etc., that you're going to be adopting that don't exist in the legacy ECC system. And so there's going to be a level of change that needs to be impacted. And it's not only about your people, it's about your suppliers, your customers, your contractors, your service providers, the whole of organisation. I think the second area that we see challenges, and it's something that we've all touched on earlier, is data. And there's really 2 parts to data on a program. There's data migration, which is moving data from legacy systems to the new system. But if you've got poor quality data sitting in your legacy systems, you're only going to end up with poor quality data in your new system, and you're not going to be able to adopt a lot of these new technologies that rely on quality data, whether that be AI, analytics, etc., all require data. And so having your data governance practices, your data quality, and then cleansing your data in your existing system so you can get the full use out of the program is absolutely key. And then the third area, which is Project Management 101, is program governance and project management, having an integrated schedule, risk and issues management, effective steering committees, having all those structures in place. Because even if you've got the A team on the program, there's going to be risk and issues that come up, and you're going to need to manage through it. You're going to need to make decisions. There'll be other external factors that impact you and competing priorities across the organisation. And then, as Jeremy touched on earlier, only 20% of organisations have moved to date, which means 80% of organisations need to in the next couple of years, and there will be a resource pool, and that's going to have an additional impact on your programs. So there are probably 3 key areas. I mean, I could probably delve a little bit more and speak on a few others, but I'll hand back.
No, thank you very much for that, Prav. And so thank you again for your time today, and we hope that you found the session insightful. We've heard that a data-driven approach will drive the case for change. Being compliant by design will mitigate transformation risk, but also that risk doesn't end when you go live. Continuous controls monitoring allows you to highlight and resolve risk in real time, and Mark showed that with the tax use case. Now, I don't want to leave before mentioning that we have a follow-up deep dive webcast into the key areas covered today. So please watch out for the follow-up email with dates so you can register. The first webcast we'll be doing will be in May. So that's the deep dive into the S/4HANA case for change offering and some of the real benefits it has delivered for our clients. So please watch out for that email. And also would be grateful if you could please stay online and fill out our feedback survey. And again, thanks for joining, and we'll see you again soon.